Fire the coach, blow it up. The predictable calls for a shakeup have been issued in Boston following the Celtics' latest postseason setback. Jaylen Brown is drawing the most scrutiny considering he's now eligible for the biggest contract in NBA history. The easy, crowd-pleasing solution would be to say that Brown isn't worth it and that the Celtics need to trade him. But believe it or not, Boston's best path to championship number 18 is actually paying Brown and standing pat. Before we continue, can we acknowledge that after approximately 1 million comments over the last 3 years, @NBA PBA Update 8338 is finally getting the Jaylen Brown video they've been asking for. Ask and you shall receive. Eventually. Alright, now back to business. I understand the frustration in Beantown. Though the Celtics have been close to the mountaintop for years now, this version of the team just hasn't been able to get all the way over the hump. In addition, after laying an egg to dig themselves a 3-0 series hole against the 8th-seeded Heat, 2nd-seeded Boston got blown out at home in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. Brown's woeful performance played a big part in that embarrassing defeat. When the Celtics needed him most after Jason Tatum suffered an ankle injury on the first possession of Game 7 and was clearly hobbled the rest of the way, Brown wilted. He shot 8 of 23 from the field and turned the ball over 8 times.
Just a terrible game when my team needed me most. My team turned to me to make plays and etc. And I came up short. I failed.
Most frustrating for Celtics fans, the same issues that have always plagued Brown came back to bite him against Miami, as the 2-time All-Star's shaky handle and inability to go left was once again exposed.
Once Tatum was injured, was the entire game plan to send Jaylen Brown to his left?
I think that was always the game plan.
Always the game plan. Dan likes to do this.
Between all that and the fact there are some diminishing returns from having 2 stars with such similar skill sets, I get the temptation to say the 2 J's need to be broken up before Brown can reach free agency in 2024. But the only way Boston should entertain that notion is if there's a deal out there whereby they can turn Brown into an equally capable but better fitting supporting star for Tatum. Spoiler alert, there isn't, especially with Brown down to the last year of his contract. And with the team squarely in win-now mode, the Celtics can't afford to downgrade from a talent perspective, say for something like Anthony Simons and the number 3 pick in this year's draft. That's why even if they ultimately come to the conclusion that Tatum and Brown eventually need to be split up, the Celtics' best course of action is still paying up to keep Brown now and figuring out the rest later, as opposed to dealing from a position of less leverage with only a year remaining on his contract. I also understand the casual fans' reluctance to give Brown a bigger contract than any basketball player has ever received. He's certainly a star, but he's not in anyone's top 10 league-wide. The thing is, you have to understand the way the CBA and the cap work. For one, if the Celtics don't give Brown the 5-year, $295 million Supermax extension he's now eligible for after making the All-NBA second team this year, they might as well kiss him goodbye. He'd likely seek greener pastures in free agency next year, or perhaps even demand a trade immediately due to the perceived slight. Again, that only leads to a conundrum where the Celtics either lose a star for nothing that they can't afford to replace, or one where they trade him from a position of weakness rather than maximizing his value.
Does that seem smart?
Secondly, Brown's deal would only be the biggest in league history until the next Supermax eligible star gets his extension, with Tatum himself likely to eventually cash in on a bigger contract that would kick in the year after Brown's new deal. With max contracts tied to the salary cap, future deals will only continue to get bigger as the cap continues to balloon in the coming years. As insane as it might seem to you right now, Brown's outrageous extension will likely look pretty fair within a couple years. You can't just avoid paying players their full max values because they're not perfect superstars. Less than a handful of those guys exist, if that. This is also the part of the video where I remind currently frustrated Celtics fans that for all of his faults, Brown is a pretty damn good player. He's coming off a season where he averaged 26.6 points, 6.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and a steal on 58% true shooting. Though his three-point shooting comes and goes, Brown is one of 15 players in history to average that many points in a season on an effective field goal percentage of 55+. He's averaged at least 20 points per game for 4 straight years while serving as the second best player on a perennial 50+ win team. With Brown and Tatum together in Boston, the Celtics have made the playoffs every year, have made the conference finals 4 times in 6 seasons, and they came within 2 wins of a championship in 2022. All the evidence suggests the 2 Jays are good enough to put Boston in a position to contend for championships. And that's exactly what they should continue to do for years to come if the Celtics keep them together, or at least if they secure Brown to a long-term deal. Despite some of the handle-related limitations and off-ball concerns on the defensive end, Brown has proven to be a great number 2 on a genuine contender. Sure, keeping him means he'll be paid like a number 1 for 1 year until Tatum gets his new deal. But these are the cap-related realities of keeping contending teams together, which is exactly what the Celtics should be doing.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.